I love it when a speaker opens with a joke, so I have a joke for you. Are you ready? So, yeah, thanks for the warning. So this is about two guys. It's a Sunday afternoon, and they're flying in a little light aircraft, little two-seater plane out over the ocean. They've been out for about an hour when suddenly they have engine trouble. And they try to call back on the radio. They find out the radio is broken, and they have to do a quick emergency landing on a little island. And they finally get safely down, and one guy is unusually nervous about it, and the other guy is unusually calm. So the nervous guy is saying, "Oh my God, what are we going to do? We have no food, we have no water." And the second guy says, "Just relax. I'm sure it's all going to be fine. But the radio's broken. How are we going to? No one knows we're here." "No, really, just calm down. I'm sure everything is going to work out just fine." "What are you talking about? We have no food, we have no water. What are you talking about?" And then the other guy says, "Well, something you may not know about me is that back home, my investments are doing really well." Who cares? We need someone to save us. "No, really, I'm back home. I'm making my investments are making like $10,000 a week. It's amazing." "What are you talking about?" Says, "Okay, maybe you're not getting the whole picture here. I'm bringing in $10,000 a week, and I tithe 10% of that to my Unity Church, and I know my minister will find me." That's fun. I like that joke. So actually I want to tell you some stories about, the title of my talk is Flow, Flow, Flow Your Boat. Trust is Not a Dream. And I want to look at ways that trust, like the guy on the island, how trust shows up in our lives, how it's shown up in my life, and some of the ways that my story applies to you. I had a really fun thing happen. I mentioned I traveled to Italy a lot, and a few years back, I was doing work on this island off the coast of Sicily, singing for a retreat. And I'd done this many, many times with this particular organization, and it came time to settle up at the end, and where I received my fee. And I would always submit, some miscellaneous expenses. This time they came to $90, and so I was, submitting that to be paid the $90. And this time the organizer said, "Well, we're not going to pay that this time." And I kind of felt like, well, that doesn't feel right, and kind of my heart kind of went, a little, but I, at the same time, you don't want to bite the hand that feeds you, and I heard this inner voice, because I was about to say, get into an argument about it, but the inner voice said, "Let it go. Just let it go. You're always covered. There's a bigger plan afoot. You're always covered. Let it go." So I did. I just took a breath and thanked her very much and went on my merry way. And I had to get flight from Palermo to Rome, a short flight, which it was running a little bit late, and then it was going to be my big flight back to the U.S., like 9 hours from Rome. And I travel a lot with American Airlines, so many, many times I've gotten to fly in the business class seats without paying anything extra because they give me these upgrades. And I knew that on this day I was going to get that wonderful seat. So anyway, I get from Palermo to Rome, scurry between terminals, get in line to get my boarding pass for this big flight with my nice cushy seat. And I'm there like 45 minutes before departure. I'm sixth in line. Everything should be fine. So, it's 45 minutes. So 10 minutes passes. I'm still sixth in line. Okay. Another 10 minutes. Finally, I'm fifth in line. This is taking longer than I thought. I don't get to talk to the gate agent until the actual time of departure. I get up there, and she says, "I'm sorry, sir, but your business class seat is no longer available." It's like, okay. Again, my heart's going. Grrr. So, and I'm thinking, well, geez, I was here 45 minutes. Well, I can't do anything about it. And she says, "I'm sorry, sir. That's if you must fly in a business class seat, there might be one on tomorrow's flight, or maybe the next day." Well, I'm not going to sit around the airport, to try and have a nice chair on a plane. But then she said, "However, if you'd be willing to fly on this flight, we do have a seat for you in coach, and it's an aisle seat. And, to pay you back for your inconvenience, for all your trouble, if you're willing to take that seat, American Airlines would be willing to give you flight vouchers for future flights on American in the amount of $3,000. So I kind of looked down and shuffled my feet and said, well, I guess that would be okay. And I had a great flight. Ended up actually connecting with someone I hadn't seen in 5 years who was back there. And it's not a big deal. And it was fine. And shortly after that, I stopped. I noticed something. Did you see what happened? Like a few hours earlier, I let go of $90 on this side. And the voice said, just let it go. There's a bigger plan afoot. You're always covered. And I turned around to catch $3,000 coming in from this side. Don't you love how the universe works sometimes? It's like, as we let things go, things show up to support us. We don't have to control everything. And I used those flights to do my work. It was supporting my mission here on earth, to allow me to fly to other places and have that be covered. Because many times it comes out of my pocket. This trip came out of my pocket. I lay myself out there and just put it out, and I'm always covered somehow. The first time I was in this sanctuary, I was the musician traveling with an author named Alan Cohen. He would give talks and workshops. Wonderful author, if you haven't heard him or read his books. And I remember from the stage, I've seen him say, he'll tell the audience, and again, it's about trust and trying to control things. He says to take your fingers and roll them up like so you're looking through a little pinprick. Will you do this with me now? This is kind of fun. So the idea is that, so you look around the room, and what Alan says is, out of all the things happening in life, this is about how much you can see. And then he says, now open up your fingers all the way. And he says, this is what God sees. And the kind of joke on ourselves is that we're busy trying to control everything based on this much information. Like, are you ready to release your role as the general manager of the universe based on this much information? Are you? You want to solemnly swear? I solemnly swear I release my role as the general manager of the universe based on this much information. That's a great thing to remember. We're busy trying to make everything, relax. Flow, flow, flow your boat. Trust is not a dream. There's a great quote in A Course in Miracles that applies to this. It says, trust would settle every problem now. Trust would settle every problem now. Will you say that with me? Trust would settle every problem now. Do you see what it's saying? That there's this bigger plan afoot, and we have some idea how it's supposed to be going, but if we would just trust that the universe has got a bigger plan, it's got a bigger picture, and knows where it's going. I wrote a song that kind of says the same thing some years ago. The song is called In Time, and some of the lyrics go like this. In time, we see the working out, and we find that there's peace there. And you've seen this happen in your life. Like, think of some mess you were in a year or two ago, and you didn't see how it was going to work out. You didn't see your way out of it. But as time passed, you see, oh, that had to happen, so it would lead to this, that would lead to that. You know what I'm talking about? How it's part of a puzzle you don't see in the moment. And then you see how it resolves itself, like where you can kind of finally go, oh, okay. Well, now, fast forward to this moment. Think about some mess you're in today and claim that same principle. That it is on its way to resolving. You can claim that peace now. You can step into trust. Trust would settle every problem now. I have a friend I started out in a big Unity church in Houston, and I love something. He was kind of this Renaissance man, a buddy of mine, and he would say, Charley, and listen to how he says this, I always like to put myself out on the leading edge of my ignorance. Isn't that a great line? I always like to put myself out on the leading edge of my ignorance. Out on the edge of what I don't know yet. That's where the adventure is. If we're always here doing what we've always done, where we always know how it always works, are we really awake in that? But it takes trust to be out on the leading edge of our ignorance, to be in the adventure zone. Trust would settle every problem now. Another area where trust shows up is in our relationships, and how we communicate with each other. Sometimes it takes trust to reveal ourselves. I think that's the theme of what you guys are studying now with the thing about vulnerability. Isn't there a book by is it Brene Brown? Yeah. And I'm going to talk about another metaphor that's happened in my life, and you'll see how it applies. So forgive me for the metaphor I've chosen. But that has to do with sometimes when I get a high fever, we'll say in the past, when I have had like the flu. And what I notice is that I'm so warm that I'll try and find a cold tile floor in the bathroom just to stay in my body, to stay connected. Has anyone done that before? Like you're just trying to stay in my body. I don't want to pass out or hang in there. What I also notice in these situations is that my body wants to vomit. I hope I can say vomit in church. I guess I just did. He wants to move it through and let it go, but however, I do not want to vomit. I don't want to go through that. But if I would just vomit, it would like move things along. It's like I could let it go, but no, I don't want to go through that experience. And I've noticed that I do the same thing sometimes in relationships. And I don't know if maybe the men can relate to this more than the women, but I'm kind of a don't rock the boat kind of guy. So if there's some issue in the relationship, part of me just thinks, can we just get past this without having to talk about it? Do you know that feeling? Men? No. And that requires trust. Can we step into trust that our love is bigger than whatever issue comes up? That's a big question, and that takes trust to step into that. Can I trust that our love, that our relationship is stronger than whatever issue comes up that we need to look at? And it really is. It's like when I have the flu, if you just let it move along, it'll be so much cleaner and clearer. We can move on with the healing. Move on with the healing. Another way that trust shows up in my life is just how I book gigs, how I arrange my schedule. And it's what I noticed is that I'll maybe look 7-8 months into the future, open up my laptop, the calendar for November is blank, for instance. And I'll just sit and kind of meditate and listen, God, where am I supposed to be? And it really is a trust walk because, this little career I've chosen, there's no insurance package or benefits program other than that the universe keeps taking care of me, that there's a bigger plan afoot and I'm always covered. And so I'll just listen, say, well, where am I being pulled? What church? Where am I supposed to be? And I'll start to hear things and then kind of block it out on my calendar, just make up an imaginary tour and just how it would flow and how long it would take to drive to the next town and et cetera. And then I'll get on the phone and so I'll start making calls. And many times I'll get, the minister's yes, and then yes, and yes. Oh, wow, I really heard it right. And that trust worked out. And there are other times where the ministers went, no. It's like, okay, that's not flowing. But there's another aspect to trust, which is knowing when to just step back. Maybe it's not time yet. Something has to reveal itself. And that requires trust too. Okay, it's not known yet, but I will know eventually. There's another great quote in the Course in Miracles. I am content to be wherever He wishes, knowing He goes there with me. I do not have to worry about what to say or what to do. These are the other great lines of just that reminder that we can step into a larger trust. There's a bigger plan afoot, and we will always be supported in the work we came here to do and what our mission is. Now, you notice the word worry. I do not have to worry. I heard another great quote that involves the word worry, and I think you're going to enjoy this. It's from Mark Twain, where he said, "I've proven that worrying works." So I've proven that worrying works because pretty much everything I've ever worried about never happened. It's a good one, huh? Well, I want to start to close with something I heard a minister say once some years ago in California. And he did one of these confessions that most ministers would probably say the same thing. He said, I have a confession for you, and that is that every talk I give, it's pretty much the same talk. I just have to figure out a different way to say it every Sunday. But he said if you were to cull it down into its simplest form, He said, I'm really saying three things, and this is what they are. Everything is God. This includes you. Act accordingly. Isn't that good? Everything is God. This includes you. Act accordingly. Can we say that as an I statement? Excuse me. So we'll say, and I act accordingly. So everything is God. This includes me, and I act accordingly. Let's say it one more time. Everything is God. This includes me, and I act accordingly. So kind of step into the feeling of that for a minute. Everything is God. This includes me, and I act accordingly. And as I step into that knowing, that deeper knowing, that I am spirit knowing of who I am, then I really do start to see things differently. And toward the end of the meditation, I said, it doesn't matter so much what we're looking at in our lives as where we're looking from. So if we're looking from, everything is God, this includes me, and I act accordingly, if we can really look from that position, then trust, the need for trust almost doesn't exist. We've already stepped into that beingness state. Trust happens when we're caught in duality, the need for trust. When we're caught in this illusion that we're separate, that there's chaos. When we step into union with God, everything is God, this includes me, and I act accordingly, then we're in that flow. We're in that knowing state, in that flow your boat. Trust is not a dream. It just is. It's just innately how we operate. Innately. So may you flow your boat, knowing innately that trust is not a dream. Thank you very much.